welcome to the Unqualified Podcast with Leon Wilson. That's me. I have I'm elated. Let me just say it that way. I'm elated for my guest tonight. I think that if you don't know him, you're going to know him. The guy is just knocking it out of the park, literally like knocking folks to the ground and all this other. He's an MMA national champion. I'll let him tell you all about himself. My guest on this episode is my friend Tanner the Hammer Owens. How you doing, Tanner?
Doing great. I'm a two-time national champion. I've last year I fought in Indonesia for a world title. I did lose, but this year I get to go to Brazil to fight for another one. Hopefully I can get the W.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will, buddy. So I've seen some of your clips. Man, you hit hard. And I know that I'm a fighter too. I was raised in the hood, and so it came a little bit different. I am not learned, like I don't have any kind of belts or anything like that. I can see you've got a couple of belts next to you. What are those?
So this one is the 2025, and the other one is the 2024 national.
My goodness. So you fight all over the country, or you fight primarily in South Carolina?
Well, I fought everywhere in America. Well, trying to fight everywhere in America. I don't really care where it is. But I want to fight in the world. But those are just hard to get to sometimes, but you got to earn your spot. So you have to travel. Like I went to Milwaukee, and then I also went to Ohio and to fight for the nationals. That's where I won those. And then in Milwaukee, I got to go to Indonesia from there. And then Ohio is where I earned my spot to go to Brazil.
Goodness gracious. So when's the Brazil fight?
Brazil, I think I leave June 15th. I think the weigh-ins is the 16th, and then the first fighting day is the 17th. I'm pretty sure.
Goodness gracious. So let's talk about jet lag. When you went to Indonesia, was there like a bunch of jet lag that you fought?
It was horrible because it was like, I'm pretty sure it's like 12 hours because when it's night here, it's day there, and it's like completely different. So I didn't get a good amount of sleep until one day out before my fight. Then my teachers gave me all this work because I'm still in school, and they gave me all this work, and I didn't do none of it until I got back. And that was so hard to do.
I bet. So has MMA affected your grades? First off, how old are you?
I'm only 15.
Okay.
15, yeah.
So how do your teachers feel about it?
So it's like some really like it, or some just they don't agree with it. They don't understand it. Some people just think it's violent. They think it's like a hateful sport, but it's really not.
Yeah.
Then you have some teachers that understand it and love it.
I'm not going to ask you to say any names. I promise.
I wish I could.
Do not say names.
Wish I could.
So one of the things that I just absolutely appreciate about you is your love for Christ. So how did you come to faith in Christ?
Well, so I've had some stuff, happen in my life, and I wanted to find something to help me get through that. And, I've always been in church and stuff like that. But then like when I was younger, you don't really take it seriously because you're little. When you go to church, you just want to, play and stuff like that. Then when I got older, I read the Bible more, and I want to actually learn about it and be strong in my religion. And that's what I've tried because, he died for my sins. Why shouldn't I try to just read the Bible once a day?
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's your favorite biblical either book, passage, verse? Do you have a guiding verse that you go by?
See, I'm not real good with the verses because I still don't know how the Bible how you got the chapters and stuff like that. I've always struggled with that, knowing where the stuff is. That's why when I'm in church and they're saying off, they're John 3:16. I'm trying to find it and I don't know where it is. But I think I just got done reading Matthew, and I like that. I liked him a good amount.
Matthew's a great gospel. So in the Gospels, as far as I'm concerned, I really like Matthew because Matthew gives a lot of context, and the context is important to me. Like, when did this happen? Who
Yeah.
was Jesus related to, and all that. Family's important. Like, I don't know how. I don't know how I got this far in life without having a fervent appreciation for my family. And I know you have a pretty supportive family. So tell me about your family.
Oh, I have a very loving mom and dad. They're couldn't ask for more. They help me with they give their life, to help me get where I can go. They fight for sponsors. They help me in school. So I have dyslexia, and it's been harder in school. So they've worked their butts off to like make sure I get the right education. And now that I got all these opportunities to go fight and stuff, they make sure that I can do it.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of that. I'm great to have my mom and dad. They've done so much for me.
That's awesome. It's big of you to say stuff like that, because I know, and I'm not trying to sound mean, but I know 15-year-olds who don't even want their parents around. Like, if they had it their way, you would not know they have parents.
Yeah.
And you're quite the opposite. And I think that shows. Number one, the commandment, honor thy mother and father, and that comes with a promise that your days will be longer, and and I think promise is huge for me. But I guess the biggest question I have as far as like how that is concerned, when you go overseas, like when you went to Indonesia, and now you're setting up for Brazil, who's the most nervous?
Oh, it's definitely my mom. It's like I'm the one fighting, but she gets the most nervous because I'm so glad she does this, but she's like my manager. She does the plane tickets, she gets the fight set up, she does everything. So I'm proud for that, but she gets so nervous. Like from day one when we start talking about it, she gets so nervous, but she's the one that's the most ready all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of that because I don't know how she does all that plane stuff. It's difficult.
So when you're in the ring and your mama's screaming, do you hear her in the crowd, or are you so focused that you're just thinking about the opponent?
I wish I could say that I haven't heard her, but I have. I've heard her a good amount. I'm supposed to be focused in there, but I know in Indonesia, I slipped and fell, and she yelled loud, and I heard her, and I was like, dang it, because I knew I fell, and she yelled so, like, everybody, like, on the broadcasting could hear her. Like, that's how loud they were. She yelled, and I loved it, though, because I was on bottom. The guy was, trying to beat me up, and I heard her yell because she was telling me to fight, and I thought it was hilarious.
So, are you afraid of your mom? Don't lie.
Am I afraid of her?
Yeah.
The thing is like, she's like 4'11", and she'll still beat me up sometimes, She tries her hardest, and I love that.
There's nothing like a mother, dude.
Oh,
nothing like a mother. Something that I've realized I have accidentally hurt my mom. And one time she said, "Leon, what's that smell?" And I lifted my elbow to tell her what my deodorant was. She's like, "Are you wearing cologne? What's that smell?" I lifted my elbow and elbowed my mom, and she was hurt, and I think I was offended more than she was hurt, and I'll never forgive myself for that. But my sisters and my little brother always give me grief about that. So you got siblings. Are any of them in fighting?
Oh no, both of them played baseball, and I played baseball when I was younger, but. Cole, right now he's like helping out with some baseball stuff, but Xander, he actually won state his senior year in high school. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So y'all cheer each other on pretty good?
Oh yeah. It's like whenever I'm fighting, if he can find it on TV, he's pulling it up, or if it's near him, he'll come to it. But he lives in Charleston, so it's kind of harder for him to make it sometimes to my fights, but if he could, he would.
Tell me about the shirt you got on.
Oh yeah. This is so I used to go to this church called The Well, and ever since I was little, I've always went to that church. But now I go to another church, Love Springs, and their logo was this logo, and I've always liked it since I was little. So then when I started fighting and I'm trying to raise money and try to get sponsors, my first words was, I need that shirt, because my first ever fight, I wore this shirt because I loved the shirt. I was like, I want to represent Jesus while I'm fighting, because everybody says this sport's, rude and brutal and stuff. I want to show that it's not all that,
Yeah.
there is good in it. So I was, my first ever fight was like in a bottom of a hotel. It was rough, but I wore this shirt, and so when I was trying to get money for Milwaukee, I was like, and they asked me for a design, and I was like, I want that design. And then the other stuff I didn't really care about, but I was like, I need the Jesus. I want that.
Yeah.
That was my one demand I wanted.
All right. Do you think it's going to stick around forever?
Oh, 100%. Because now I have a team. We have 2 other people going. We have Max and Robert going to Brazil with me. They have their stuff they want on the shirt, and I told them, I said, I don't care where the Jesus is. I mean, it can be on the arm, it could be little on the back. I don't really care. I just want it on the shirt, because it's represented me since I've started fighting, and it's helped me out, get the places. Yeah. And he's helped me out every day,
Yeah, absolutely. That's what he does. That's what he does. So one of the questions I was chewing on, I was thinking, man, when I sit down with Tanner, I need to ask him, something along these lines. In your age group and in school, in society, there's so much so much pressure to go we'll just call it the worldly way, and to kind of forsake your Christian roots. Where do you dig from in order to say, no, I'm a man of God?
So like at school, there's a lot of people that's like not religious, and I'm very religious. I'm heavy, just because it's just like we don't understand how much he does for us. I think even people that know the Bible from back to back, I think they even take for granted for what he's done. It's like every day we wake up, he wanted us to. There's something he wants us to get done that day.
Yeah.
Every day that every day we breathe in, it's because of him.
Yeah.
We take advantage of that. We don't realize every day we sin, and it's like it hurts him. But he died. Jesus Christ died for our sins because he loves us.
Yeah.
And that's why it's just like I want to try my hardest to do as much as I can to get people to God. So I feel like me traveling the world and just wearing the shirt, and someone sees the shirt and goes and Googles it, and just like, hey, and they start researching it, and then they start believing. I feel like that's super cool to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's I commend you. I think it's bold. It's important to be bold in our faith, and to see a young man that's willing to say, no, this stays on the shirt. I say keep it on the front, don't it? Yeah. Unless they can whip you, you can't move it. You know what I mean?
I like that. I'm gonna say that to him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to say it all the time. If you can whip me, I'll stop doing this. But if you can't whip me, this is what I'm gonna do. Yeah. So, back in the day, I was a different person. I too have been through some things, and had a very rough life, and and Jesus saved me, even me, and I think it's huge that you stand up for that. I also think that it's huge that you keep it and you're rooted into it. So you're 15, you're human. Or what is your biggest frustrations in MMA?
Biggest frustrations? I just don't like how much people like hate on the sport. It's because they're just like, oh, it's violent. They just like, people don't think there's any love in it. It's just like when my opponent, when I'm fighting him, after like me and that guy has the best friendship. It's like it's a different kind of bond. It's when you do sports and stuff, but when you're trying to hurt each other, it's different. It's like a brotherly thing. Yeah. And like my teammates and stuff, we got a different kind of bond than like a baseball team does. But just because every day, when we go and train, we try to hurt each other sometimes. And I just think people they don't realize it's not as like, it's violent, yes, but we love each other so much that we're willing to do that, then dab up after, and not hate each other for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, that's huge. there was I forget who it was. It was like one of the bloodiest MMA fights in history, and I forget the two fighters. And and please forgive me, internet, for forgetting the fighters' names. But I remember they were. It was a UFC fight, and they had just utterly one of the most just long straight to the bells. And
Did the guy have like a mohawk?
I think so.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it was. I can't even remember, and I'm not going to say it because I can't be confident in the answer. But I remember watching those guys, and I mean, I'm talking just ruining each other's faces, and then at the end of it all, they barely can stand, and the after the winner was, I forget who it was that won. But after the ref or the announcer held his hands up, or the ref held his hand up, it was like they both wanted to collapse, but they had to meet each other. And I think that's huge. There is a lot of love there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of respect, huge amount of respect, and that's important. Is that probably your favorite part of it?
Yeah. It's just like the respect that we have for each other. It's just because like he knows what I can do and I know what he can do.
Mm-hmm.
And for me and him to step in that ring and do it, it's just like I respect that guy so much for doing that. And I hope he respects me for doing that. Whoever I fight, I've always looked up. Like I fought this one kid, my first cage fight. It was a kickboxing match, but he was 19 years old and I was 13, and he respected me so much for stepping in. I won, but he respected me so much for just even getting in the ring.
Wow.
But that fight, I was so scared.
What was your biggest fear? What do you feel like?
Well, it's just because like he was training for like 14 years of his life.
Yeah.
And I was 13, so he's been training longer than I've been alive. And I was so nervous, and he was way bigger than I was too. Because I think I was like maybe 120, 125, and he was like 6 feet almost. Dude, that's what it felt like. It felt like David and Goliath in there. He was huge.
Yeah.
And but after we dabbed up and we hugged and we talked, I think I still have his number. I don't really text him anymore, but the respect we have for each other is crazy. He still wants to fight now, but I told him, I mean, he's like 21 now, so it's like, nah.
I mean, at some point you got to say, no, we're in two different leagues now. So what is your class right now? What class you in as far as like weight class?
Oh, I'm for nationals I fought 140, and then at Worlds I'm fighting 145. Do
you go between? Do you put on weight and cut pretty quickly?
I cut. I do.
Yeah.
I think I walk around about 150, 155 maybe.
Nice.
So I don't cut.
Me too.
I don't cut as much as some people cut like 30 pounds.
Yeah.
But that's more like when you're getting up in the pro, big amateur fights. But this league, I mean, there's really no point of cutting 30 pounds. Yeah.
There was a time when I pulled security for cage fighters in the WFC or not WFC. It was the oh goodness, now I can't even think of the name, but it was LFC, Legend Fighting Championship. Some big names came from that, and it had nothing to do with me. Of course, I was just bodyguarding and pulling security. But I think the atmosphere during those fights, that charged atmosphere, is pretty cool. There's an allure to it. I mean, like you're like, hey man, it's let's go. And seeing some of these guys get in the ring and after how much I know that some of them cut and things like that was a challenge. But, if I had any suggestion, just, an old fat guy gives you a suggestion, it's, try to stick to your, whatever your fitness is and not do those big swings. 'Cause sometimes it can cause negative effects, but, so is this something that you want to go pro at? Do you have a...
Oh yeah. I want this to be my career. This is like, every day I train, I'm watching videos, trying to get, more educated into it. But with the cutting weight, I don't like cutting weight. No one likes it, but it's like, let's say you walk around on 150, so you fight at 150. When you fight somebody that's 150, they cut from 160. So when you fight them, they're 160.
Yeah.
So when you go down and fight 140 guys, they're actually 150 with you. So it's so confusing how the weight works. I kind of wish we just would take a step back and be like, why aren't we cutting weight?
Yeah.
We're literally walking around at the same weight class. Why don't we have to cut and make 140?
Yeah.
If we know we're both at 150. It makes no sense to me. That's probably one of the weirdest things is cutting weight, because how much people cut. And that's another, like, almost a fight, is to cut more weight than the other guy.
Yeah.
When you get in like the big pros and the bigger amateur fights.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not easy on your body. It's tough on your body. So as far as like where you live, you looking to stay in this area? Or are you looking to, where's like Tanner's dream place, like to live?
I would just prefer to stay close to, family. I'd prefer to, but like, because fighting, it's not like, you're going to work here for the rest of your life. It's like, they can call you and be like, hey, you got to fight in Ohio. And then they're like, hey, you got to fight in Milwaukee, or hey, you got to go fight here and here. So it's just like, you're all over the place. There's really no point of like, you know that you're not going to have like a specific place you're going to fight at, and just stick where you are, because you might have to fly somewhere. There's no point in just setting up somewhere,
Yeah, I understand that. I think the logistics part of it is always going to be there, right? No matter where you lived, you'd have to go somewhere else, and that and of course, having the family as your biggest supporters, which is a huge blessing. They'd have to go with you, right?
Yeah,
because that's what they do.
Oh yeah.
And no matter where you went, you'd have to be like, hey, mom, hey, dad, meet me in Utah or whatever. But when you think about some of these fights that you have to get into, like, what's the next goal after Brazil?
Probably just because it's really the same goal every year with Gamma, just because it's like, I'm not amateur, adult yet. So it's not like I really have a choice, because Gamma and IFFA is like one of the biggest things for kids, because there's really not another league like that. So it's just the next thing after Ohio is to go win another national and then go to the next Worlds. Is really, because I think next year or the year after that might be my last year with Gamma, just age wise, because I'll age out, or I can compete in the adult. Maybe I would be down, but it just depends on how the cards fall.
Is that something you look forward to, like that challenge of saying, hey, do I compete as an adult, or do I, is that something you're preparing for mentally and physically?
Yeah. And it's like with this sport, you really just got to go with the flow, because it's like stuff gets so complicated sometimes. Like when we were over in Indonesia, everything went wrong. It was supposed to go this way, it went this way. So it's just like my mom was stressed out the whole time.
I bet.
She was so stressed out. It's because it's like, and what was weird is when we're over there, it wasn't like you just fought and weighed in. No, we had these meetings, and then you would have to go like to these parties and because they had a lot of like, it's hard to say, like these dances. I thought they were pretty cool, but I don't really know what the points were, like what the point of it was. But I think it was like an Indonesian thing, but it was super cool to go to and watch. I only skipped one of them. I went to every single one of them except one, because it was after the fight and I wanted to go eat steaks. So I went and ate steaks, but I would love to fight with the adults, because the adults still go and fight in Indonesia and stuff like that, but they're just the adults, Yeah.
Is that like is there a particular place that you were thinking, man, I really want to travel to XYZ? Where's your dream place?
Like my dream place to fight in? I mean, I think everybody wants to fight in like Las Vegas, because that's just like everything, just big stuff happens in Las Vegas. Or I've always thought France would be pretty cool, just because I want to go to France, just to see the stuff. But that, I never thought about going to Indonesia, but that was super sick. So wherever they want to, give me a fight, I'm down, because if I get to travel to go to it, that's super cool to me.
Yeah.
So I don't really care where it is.
Is there a particular um, is there a particular, I hate to say it, but a particular attack that you just like, "Grr, I can't stand that they did that."
Um, Not really. I mean, I'm pretty good at like all of it. I mean, I'm a rounded fighter. I'm better at stand up,
Yeah.
but there's really not. I mean, there's like a couple things that's like dirty moves that you shouldn't do, like like toe stomps. If you're doing
Yeah.
that, it's kind of dirty. But I mean, I don't really care. There's not anything that I hate really in the sport when it comes to the fighting aspect of it.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing to counter?
Um, I really like this. I like my favorite sub is probably like, you got. I love getting guillotines,
Hmm.
anacondas, and darces. Those are my favorite chokes. And then I like the key lock a lot,
Yeah.
but I don't like when it's done to me at all.
Yeah. That's kind of
Yeah,
that. I'm a big fan of not getting
yeah,
choked.
yeah. It's not fun.
I don't like arm bars. I don't like the ankles. That's just, to me, it's just awkward. I don't like
Yeah,
awkward positions.
no, I don't either. I hate getting caught in them.
Yeah, I used to love when people lunged,
Yeah,
like to try to take me down.
yeah.
Is that like when someone does that? Does that kind of get you like, yeah, all right,
Well, it's so hard in this sport because I wrestled a guy that was like really good at. He held records in wrestling, and every
mm,
time he shot, I was like, he would take me down every time, and I hated wrestling him because he's so good. But then I beat him, but his wrestling was good. But normally, like if somebody's, I love body locks, and normally people go for like hip tosses, and when they
hmm
go for that, I always get a body lock and take people down. I love when they do that. I love taking people down with that
yeah.
because people don't expect me to do that.
hmm When you spar with somebody, do you typically try to spar way up, like outside of your weight class, things like that?
Well, everybody at my gym's bigger than me, so it's like I train with the adults. I haven't trained with the kids since I was like 12, 13,
Hmm.
but everybody's huge. Like we got some guys at the gym that are just crazy big. Like we had this one guy that I grappled. He had to be like 250 and like 6'2". He was huge. He beat me up, and I tried because he wrestled like in college and stuff. I can't
Hmm.
remember his name though. He was so good, but I've always tried to go like with somebody better than me or weighs more.
Yeah,
But just because you have to work way harder to get anything, and then when you do, it feels so much better to get it.
yeah, absolutely. So let's change gears. Um, Life is a fight, and it's there's certain things outside of the ring that are challenging. There's probably a lot more security in the ring because it's who your enemy is. You see
Yeah,
who they are, and or your opponent, not necessarily your enemy, but you see who they are. You know who they are. There's some rules they got to play by, and there you got so many minutes.
yeah,
So you're bound by time. In the world we live in, that's not the case. There's always challenges in the outside life, real world, if you
yeah.
will. Um, so, what are some of those real world challenges that you feel like, man, I'm so glad I've got the Lord in my life?
Um, I would definitely say one of like there's a couple, but like school's really difficult for me just because it's like I struggle with reading and stuff like that, and math has gotten way harder. Before I was actually good at math, but now I can't really do it. But he has to help me a good amount there. But school sometimes can get very difficult. But MMA has actually helped me with that. It's just like I feel like my focus has helped, just gotten way better since I started MMA. So
Yeah,
it's helped me in school too, like just get better at figuring my way out of it.
yeah, that makes sense. So, what about the attention that other? Do you get a lot of attention because of MMA, because of your competitions and things like that at school?
Yeah, I had I had my English teacher. She posted all my links and stuff like that in Google Classroom, and she told everybody in the class. I'm just like, I didn't like it just because it put too much on me, and I just didn't like it.
Yeah,
She thought she was trying to help out, but I didn't like that. But it does get a lot of attention. Like teachers I don't know come up and ask me about it and stuff like that, and I try to tell them as much as I can before I have to get to class and stuff. But all my principals and stuff think it's super cool. They want me to wrestle for the school, but I said no. They didn't like that too much.
Well, I mean, would you even have time to do that?
Not really. I mean, I kind of did, but it's like I have like it doesn't make sense to me because I have sponsors and I get to travel the world. Why would I just kind of throw that away to go wrestle?
Yeah.
I don't. I just that like it just seems smarter to me not to go wrestle for a school.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, you taking a slot on that wrestling team might be a slot that somebody needed, because that's their dream is to wrestle in school or start there. So I think it's never a bad thing for somebody to say, hey, this is where my heart is, and this is what I'm going to do. Like if you're a dancer and you've danced on Broadway, why would you dance for your high school? Why would you dance for somebody? You would not. You would probably say, no, y'all do y'all, and I'll just continue doing me.
Yeah.
So when you pick up your Bible and you're reading, do you find that it's easier to read the Bible than other texts struggling with dyslexia?
Well, I'm not gonna lie because I have the King James version,
Mm-hmm.
and that's difficult for somebody that doesn't even have a problem. So sometimes and I read it in school during English class. Like we have like 20 minutes of reading, and I'll pull it out and read it. But there's a phone rule, so I have to pull my phone out and like look up a word.
Mm-hmm.
I do that a lot just because there's certain words I have no clue because it's like they talk different. So it's like I have to look up some of the words just to figure it out. That's what I do if I don't know what it means and stuff.
Yeah, that's incredibly smart. Let me give you a tip. This is free. You don't have to pay for this. The Bible app on your phone, and it's made by YouVersion, and I'm not sponsored by them in any kind of way. I'm just saying. The YouVersion app. Yeah. The YouVersion app. I pull that out, and on long drives or something like that, I'll listen to the Bible.
Yeah.
And listening to it while reading, it'll change your life. Like it'll make it to where, oh, wow. And hearing a word sometimes is, because sometimes I have dyslexic moments, and that's the truth. It happens with numbers. It happens with letters. And so I have to concentrate when I read. And so listening to the word while I'm reading the words, man, it's like a game changer.
Yeah.
It's like having, it's just a game changer. I recommend it. So if you try that.
Well, I do that outside of school, but normally when I'm in school, the new phone rule has been kind of difficult to do stuff like that because you can't have AirPods or nothing like that. But I have done that where I have it read it to me.
Yeah.
And then I'll just, highlight what I want to highlight and stuff like that and just look on, just look with my Bible and just listen. And it does that is way better to do. But sometimes I like to actually try to read it, try to get better by reading it.
So let me ask you this. Now that you have your passport, well, if you don't have one, you're getting one, right? Because I don't know how it works when you travel with folks under 18. On a cruise ship, you don't need anything. You just need your long form birth certificate, and so that's how I be traveling. But are you going to travel for like pleasure and not for fighting when you get old enough, or what?
I mean, I would definitely think that'd be cool, but like I've always been kind of scared to fly, and I flew. My first time was to Milwaukee, and I loved it. So I think like even like just small, car rides, like going to Florida, just maybe just fly to there. But I don't think. I mean, I might like. I would love to go back to Indonesia where I went because I had a lot of fun there. Because the community was so nice, and I would love to go just see certain spots. Just because in Brazil, I've always wanted to go see the statue, but I can't remember the name of it right now.
Mm-hmm.
The
statue of Jesus.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna be really near that.
Really?
Yeah. So we're gonna go and drive and see that.
Nice.
So I would love to go, see certain things around the world. I would love to go to can't remember the name of it, but I would definitely travel for pleasure. Yeah.
So, have you thought about doing any missionary work?
I've done like I did one when I was little. I went to Texas. but I've never done. That's probably it. But I would definitely be really cool to do.
Well, I got a guy who he does missionary work in Africa, and then Richie Scruggs, who was on the podcast a few episodes ago, who does the Wrestling for Christ. He does missionary work, and I can assure you they'd love to have you along. If you find yourself in just that with the time to do that and be able to volunteer, and I'm in the Philippines, probably be pretty epic for somebody like you, man, to be able to go there and maybe have a little sparring match in the ring, in their wrestling ring or something. I'm not giving anybody any ideas. I'm just simply saying that it would have to be pretty awesome to take advantage of stuff like that. But both of those guys are definitely down for anybody who wants to travel with them.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like somebody like you who, you have a skill and you use it, and you're able to share that with the world, and I think that's pretty epic. So let me ask you this, because I know folks are going to ask. Do you have your eye on a special young lady?
I do.
Okay. That's all I needed to know.
I do.
Because,
she knows who she is.
Uh-oh.
We're not name dropping though.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. Trust me, don't do it. It's better this way with the mystique and stuff like that. I guess when you think about church and when you think about fighting and folks think about how can you be an MMA fighter and do violence, how can you still serve Christ and represent Christ? And I know that's a tough question.
Yeah.
But now that you hear it coming out of my mouth, what is on your mind?
It is difficult because when I first started MMA, I've always wondered, I was like, I know he's like, love your neighbor, right? Mm-hmm. Is it a sin to do the sport? And then I've done some research on that, and well, that's where I've always wanted to show people that no, we're not out here actually, trying to we're trying to, beat each other up, but we're not. It's not like the street where I'm gonna beat you up and then leave you there. No, here we're doing it to win. Win this, get our name out there, but we're doing it with each other. We're not doing it against each other almost. I like that. That's where, we like to, be in the back, get our heads, get ready to go fight. But realistically, we're doing it with each other. No matter how much you hate that guy, you still have so much respect for him. And after, normally there's some times, but normally you normally hug or something after, because there's that much respect. And normally there's so much tension before a fight, y'all two are eyeing each other down, so after it's broke, it's just like y'all two are ready to talk, and stuff like that. And that's another thing that I like. Sometimes I like the after the fight more than I do winning the fight, just because I get to talk to that guy and there's no build up no more. Because, you have your fight camp and then, you're getting ready and you got to make weight and then you got to go fight. There's so much tension about this guy. And then when it's broke, you finally get to sit down and talk to the guy, and then he's a good guy most of the time, Yeah. That's why I like it, because I get to make another friend after, if he doesn't hate me.
How, if you were to say, let's just say put a percentage on it, how many fights have you fought percentage wise, and y'all two have just been broing it out afterwards?
Oh, so far 100%. So far,
really
100%. The only time that I've ever was maybe the first time I fight, but it wasn't the kid; it was the parents.
Oh,
but the kid loved me, but the parents hated me because it was the hotel fight. Mm-hmm. I didn't know this, but the kids weren't that good. They were good, but I was better, and I won, and their parents didn't like it, and they yelled and stuff like that. But the kids, every kid I've ever had was nice.
Nice.
So I've always respected that.
So tell me about the tension when you're winning by points, and there's no tap out, there's no knockout. That's the easy win, right?
Yeah.
It's a hard, but it's the easy win. You just know. But tell me about the tension like that builds up when the judges are tabulating and they're figuring it out. Like how tense is that
Oh,
moment?
that's even worse. The worst is when you think you're losing.
Yeah.
Because even like you can be out there beating the guy up, but you're still in your mind. You're like, did I win that round?
Yeah.
Because I do that all the time. You know, I was at Showcase and I fought the guy and I was like, he landed a good punch. They might have gave him that round. Then you go and I looked at the score sheet and I won every round. And I was like, okay, so we're good. But that's the biggest thing is like in your mind, you're like, man, I feel like I lost that fight.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do. It's hard not to do. So it's still so much tension until a hand is raised and decided. That's when it's broke. But
Yeah.
the whole time it's y'all two were it's so tense. You can almost cut it with a knife.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So has there been a time that you've just been like, well, let me ask it this way. In the moment when you're like, man, I'm fixing to go in here and we're gonna battle it out. How many fights or when is the time that you like pray before you go in? What's that look like?
I pray a lot before I fight. I pray with my family. You know, I pray like the whole day. Like I'm just like, you know, because I'm so nervous. I'm just like, God, give me the strength. You know, and I always tell him, I'm like, dude, please take my nerves, but he never does. And I pray before I go in the cage. I pray in between rounds. You know, I want him to be there with me while I'm fighting. You know,
Yeah.
so I do it almost like the whole day.
Yeah. Do you at any time when you're fighting, have you ever like came with a plan? Like this is my plan of attack, and everything just a wash. Like your whole plan just went bye.
Yeah, you know, it's happened a good amount. That's where it's like, you know, you have to be able to adapt because normally, you know, like when I fought at Showcase, he like is supposed to be real karate, you know, so we had this style figured out. We're like, he's gonna do this, this, and this. Then I went out there and he didn't do none of it. So I had to switch it up, and I won every round still. But sometimes when you that's why you can't really be like hard stuck on a plan because
Yeah.
he could come out there and be a whole different person that day. So sometimes it's weirder to like that's why sometimes I don't even have like I'm gonna throw this, this, and this. Sometimes I'll be like I'm gonna be more of a wrestler, or I'm gonna be more stand up and stuff like that. That's really the only time. That's the really only plan I have. Sometimes I can't do that, but I like when the plan actually works out. That's my favorite part.
Yeah. So how often is that?
I think it's happened once.
Yeah.
Like it normally doesn't go how you think it's gonna go.
Right.
Because when you're getting ready to fight, you probably think about this 100,000 times and 100,000 different chances of this might happen. But it's you know you get in your mind, and that's where your nerves come in, and you get so nervous about this fight, and that's where it sets you different from other people. You got to be able to like use them for your advantage and stuff like that.
Yeah. So tell me about a time that you were that you had a plan. It went awash, but you knew God had your back because it shouldn't have gone so good.
It was my Showcase fight. I came out there, and I think he was 17 and I was 14, and well, we had this plan because he's supposed to be real karate and stuff like that, and we're like, all right, we got that, we're good. Well, we came out there and he's throwing overhands and bombs, and I was like, whoa, because what we had planned was he didn't do none of it. So we're like, all right, you know, I won the first round, came back in my corner, and then it was just like I started flowing. And then the third round, I dropped him with a knee, and I got a TKO. But
Nice.
it did not. The what we had planned was not what happened at all.
Have you ever been like, man, I know this guy has a really tough ground game. I really need to keep him on his feet, and that just like not happen. Like he was bound and determined to go to the ground.
Well, yeah, that's happened a good amount. When I fought that really good wrestler, I knew he wrestled because he had all these records and stuff. So it was like he was a good wrestler, and I was like, I'm gonna stand up with this guy. Well, then I was trying to stand up with him, and I lost. There's 3 rounds. I lost 2 rounds. So going into that third round, I'm going, dude, I'm losing. I was down in points. And I'm just like, man. Then I looked across the ring and he's like, putting his head down and he was just so tired. Well, then I went out there and I grappled him. I wrestled him, and then that's how I won the fight.
Really?
Yeah.
My goodness. Would you win with?
A rear naked choke.
Man.
He
Take
was
it
not.
home.
He was
I got to
not
dab
happy.
you up on that one.
He was not happy about that.
That was awesome. I like that. Is that recorded?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it is.
You got to send me a link or something.
I will.
Because I got to see that. I got to see that.
I will.
I've seen some of your reels. Like fight reels. I've seen some of the videos that your mom has posted, and you're talented, buddy. I mean, you are talented, but you just not just talent. Like, you've got raw potential, and the sky's the limit. I like seeing that. It blesses my heart even the more knowing that you're a man of God and that you've got your mind made up for that. So there's probably somebody out there who wants to get an MMA. How do they do it?
To be honest with you, it's just you have to just commit to it. It's because some people, they're nervous. The thing with this sport that sucks is like you're gonna go in there for like 4 months and get beat up and lose, but then you're slowly get better. That's why it's so difficult to stick with it because all the other guys have been doing it, for years. So you're just coming in there, and people don't realize how bad someone that's never trained fights. Like, they don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're in there, trying to learn and they're getting beat up, it ruins. It's just like it's so hard to go through. So you have to stick with it. This is a sport you have to just stick with it.
That's great advice. What grade are you in right now?
10th. I'm going into 11th.
Going into 11th.
Junior year.
My goodness. What else are you going to do there? Are you what's your electives?
I have no clue, if I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just there to get it over with, get a high school diploma, I'm going to Swofford, That's my plan B. My plan A is to fight. My plan B is to I'm going to do all the Swofford classes, like the course I'm doing. I'm going to finish that out. Yeah. And that's going to be my plan B if fighting doesn't work out.
What course is that?
I'm doing automotive technology.
Nice. Yep. I'm master certified in that.
Yep, that's what I'm going there to do. That's my plan B.
That's a great plan B because unless, and God forbid, but unless you get to a point where you cannot fight, you've got options, and man, there's always going to be cars, and so that's one thing that I was like, man, I'm convinced that there's always going to be cars. So if always. I learn how to use these tools, and learn, that's step one, learn the tools. Yeah. Step two, learn what you can do with those tools.
Yeah, that's literally what we did. My first holes, because I've only done one semester of it.
Yeah.
The first thing we did was tools. We learned about the toolbox was the first thing we learned about.
Nice.
And then we learned about all the tools in it. And then we barely started learning about like how they work. But normally we just learned about them and how they functioned. And I thought that was sick. So I think my next course we're actually going to learn about how they like work and how you do them and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, the gauges and stuff like that are great too. I mean, like tools, gauges, man, you can learn anything.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, now you need a computer or a scan tool. I recommend the Snap-on one. Again, I'm not
Swofford.
sponsored.
What I loved is Swofford has a thing with Snap-on. So it's like if I want to go, let's say I want to start, get my tools now, I can buy it for like 50% off.
No way.
I thought that was so cool. So I'm about to rack up some tools and stuff. I think my father's gonna, help me out with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. I think he wants some for himself too,
Yeah, of course.
He's gonna go through me, get him half off.
Yeah. You're gonna be a Snap-on dealer and you don't even know. This is not what you plan on doing with your life, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this. There are people out there your age, men, young women, who feel like they don't know what they're called to do. They don't have a niche that they're in. They don't have, and in some cases, they're going through things and they're like, man, And I'll just say it like this. It's so easy to shut down and not push forward. What kind of encouragement, advice do you have for somebody like that?
The biggest thing is just like, no matter what you've been through, no matter what's happened, like no matter what, like you can go through the worst, you can be the worst person ever. Jesus Christ will still love you no matter what.
Amen.
He died for you on the cross.
Yeah.
He did. And he rose for you. You know what I'm saying? No matter what you've been through or what you've done, he still did it for you. Yeah. He died so you can have an option, you know, no matter what you've been through. And I just think some people, you know, they're just scared to come to him, but no matter what you've done or what you struggle with, he still loves you no matter what.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate you being on the podcast. What did Leon learn? I'll tell you what I learned. This world is a battle. My man Tanner, he gets to fight that battle in a cage against somebody that he can see. And that's not always easy. Sometimes that's the toughest part of life, is having a battle to prepare yourself for, to get ready for. But if you put it into a spiritual perspective, we're doing the same thing, only in a different realm. You know who your enemy is. And let's be honest with each other. Sometimes our enemy is us. There's a battle going on in each one of our heads every single day. We don't acknowledge it sometimes. The mental health side of things is totally just driven off and written off as a moot point. But also there's people who are in our lives that sometimes they run us down, or they sucker us into a situation where, you know, we feel like we're less than real people. And some of those people are folks who you look up to and you respect, and people, what I'm saying is people can be your enemy too. But just like fighting in a cage with your fists, with your feet, with your arms, with your head, you are not alone. You have somebody in your corner, and that's Jesus. Just like Tanner said, it is sometimes hard for the proud person to say, I need help. It's incredibly hard if you don't know what help you need and you don't know who to go to. But in our case, in your case, you know exactly who to go to, and his name is Jesus. John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever, that's us, believeth upon him will not perish, but have everlasting life. That's a promise. You do have a corner man. His name is Jesus. And almost 2,000 years now, he did die for you, like Tanner said. What I've learned is that a young man, 15 years old, who won the national championship and went and won silver in the world, the whole world, says, I understand if you're scared, but I'm telling you there's no reason to be, because Jesus wants you. That's the amazing thing about Jesus, our corner man, is he will chase us down to love us. And what else are you going to do? You're sitting there, you've stumbled upon this podcast, and you've stumbled upon this awesome interview that, you know, with an incredible young man who has his whole future ahead of him with a heart of gold. It's not by accident. It's no coincidence. Christ has calling unto you. Will you answer the call? Will you fight by yourself? Or will you accept the corner man who will never leave you, never forsake you? He'll be with you even unto the end of the world. That's the choice. If you make the right choice and you choose Jesus, your life is about to change. Anyways, my call to action is like, share, subscribe, follow, do all those things, all those amazing things. We are not done. This podcast is growing exponentially at a rate that only has to be God. And folks like Tanner, who is an incredible young man, great family, love them all to death. We look forward to seeing what you do in your life, and if you're ever in doubt that people are praying for you, I can assure you I am. And I can also assure you another thing, that it ain't going to stop. But I love you. Listen, I love you. God loves you. This has been the Unqualified Podcast with Leon Wilson.